Let's get the views now. Jacqui Hames and Roger Alton, welcome to you. One story clearly dominating and not surprising, I think, given, first of all, that her body's not been found. But if we start off with the Daily Telegraph, they're going, aren't they, on the link, proof now that there's a link between porn and sexual assault.
Well, historically, academics have always sort of found it very difficult to give a definitive answer to whether there is a link between internet porn, child pornography and murders of this nature. But it does seem increasingly obvious to every normal person that there has to be something. We've got Stuart Hazel just been found guilty of murdering Tia Sharp. It's just relentless, all these murders involving young children. There seems to be this link to pornography, and the calls in all the papers today, you've got the Daily Mail front page, for the internet providers like Google and Microsoft to really start taking some proper action. It needs worldwide action on this now. It's not. But is
Google the right target here? Because they are a search engine.
Well, they are an easy target, obviously, because they're so big. But because they're so big, they are the conduit for allowing access to all this and making it easy for people, like this to access what are effectively are images of child assaults. It's easy to call them images, child images, but they are images of offences being committed against children. What we do is to stop the source of it, before it even starts, if possible, because ultimately, as I say, we're talking about images of children being abused and indecently assaulted, in many cases raped and injured, and that's what's so appalling. And how can that be acceptable in any country of the world? So it needs a worldwide almost response to this, because no one can justify this in any way, shape or form. So how can we justify allowing it on the internet for people to have access to it? It's just not acceptable on any form of modern living, and doesn't matter what. Well, obviously, the internet has allowed what a lot of paedophiles like to do, which is exchange information, pictures, and sort of their fantasies with each other. And the internet, as one of the saddest offshoots of it, has allowed them to do that much easier than they ever did before. They were always there, and they always had big networks throughout countries as well as locally, but it was much harder for them to do that, and they always kept albums of photographs, for instance. Even simple things like a catalogue of a child, modelling clothing, quite innocent and obvious. That feeds a fantasy of a paedophile.
Yeah,
but it's a long road to even begin to learn to live with it. I don't think you ever recover, but you start to learn to live each day. But as you were saying earlier, it's God forbid what the family are going through, but the whole community, the ripple effect throughout the community, in fact throughout the country, is extraordinary on a case like this. We all, as you mentioned earlier, perhaps start being a bit more overprotective to our own children, start thinking about, should they be allowed to go out and play in the park? And that's the appalling ripple effect. Well, I suspect you have probably Rose West and people like Ian Huntley as cellmates or neighbours, but in the future. But what would be interesting actually is to look into his background. People don't just suddenly go out and commit a crime like this out of the blue at his age. It would be interesting, and I hope that some work will be done into his background.
He's had convictions around assault before, drunkenness. No, clearly nothing on this guy. I think his father, who was a copper in the city, is still alive, in fact.
And one feels really sorry as well for the 6 children that he has who still live in that same community, and hopefully they will support them and in what's going to be a very difficult period of their lives.
And that's just one of the local papers in Wales as well, Daily Post, taken from all who loved her. And then down there at the bottom, indeed so, evil, manipulative pervert will die in prison, which is exactly what you were saying. I think he takes up the tally of genuine lifers to 48 here in the UK. So, there
doesn't seem enough really.
Will he have to be in solitary, do you think?
I suspect it depends where he goes to start with, but I suspect he'll be on his own.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely
the lead for all of the newspapers. Other stories still to come. This is quite funny, isn't it? Let's not spend the night together, Stones tell the BBC. He wants a blackout, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, because BBC obviously were very excited about the fact that their Glastonbury coverage was going to include a full set by the Rolling Stones, which, let's face it, I'd certainly been glued to the screen. But it would appear that...
They haven't had a new song for 40 years.
I don't care. I just want to hear the old ones. But... yeah, certainly they apparently Mick Jagger and his gang were on the were hoping that it would just be 4 songs, and I think what they're concerned about is partly, well, they're saying it's not money, but I suspect that's got something to do with it, but also that if it rains, it may affect their performance, and they wouldn't want a duff show being shown on BBC to the rest of the world, which is...
But that's interesting, because I thought it was maybe a copyright issue of who owns that performance and whether it should be included in the package, or whether actually that would be more valuable if sort of sold separately. I don't know.
Well, apparently not, according to this article in the Independent, that they're more concerned with the fact that the quality of their sound might not be good enough for their worldwide internet.
Fatherhood makes chaps feel more handsome.
Yeah, well, as a mother of 2, I brought this out story because when you've just had a child,
you've got 15 seconds. You better be
okay.
Sorry.
Well, basically, it's saying that whilst the poor women are feeling less and less attractive, having just given birth, apparently it makes new fathers feel more handsome and virile, and thereby lies a tale. But 15 seconds is nowhere near long enough.
Yes, exactly.
It's only University of California, where everybody feels very good looking anyway.
Yeah, of course, with the sun's out.
Yeah, exactly. See if the sun's out next. Jacqui Hames, Roger Orton, thank you both very much indeed. Page 9 of the Mail if you want to read that yourself.